On that fateful night of September 7, 1996, the world of hip-hop lost a shining star. Tupac Shakur was brutally shot in a drive-by shooting on the bustling Las Vegas Strip, and 6 days later he succumbed to his injuries. But what transpired that night? Who were the shadowy assailants, and what sinister motivations lurked in the shadows, fueling decades of speculation and relentless investigation? Welcome back to the heart-pounding realm of true crime Expresso, where we plunge deep into the darkest depths of solved and unsolved crimes, unraveling mysteries that have gripped our world for decades. In this video, we're embarking on a journey into the heart of a perplexing enigma, the life and death of Tupac Shakur. We'll sift through the events leading to that tragic night, exploring the web of secrets and uncovering the latest developments in the investigation. It's time to shed light on the unanswered questions that have haunted us for far too long. Without further ado, let's dive into the story. Tupac Shakur, originally named Lassane Parrish Crooks, was born on June 16, 1971, in East Harlem, Manhattan, New York. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a civil rights activist associated with the African-American Black Panther movement. Growing up in hardship with his half-sister Sekiwa, Tupac didn't meet his biological father, William Billy Garland, until he was an adult. Tupac's first name, Tupac Amaru, was inspired by his parents' involvement in the Black Panther movement and pays homage to Tupac Amaru II, a historical South American freedom fighter against Spanish conquerors. His early years were marked by frequent moves and changing living conditions in New York, alongside his mother and half-sister. In 1986, Afeni and her children relocated to Baltimore, Maryland, where they settled in a mostly white middle-class neighborhood. In the Baltimore School for the Arts, Tupac immersed himself in literature and ballet. At the same time, he began his journey into rap music. Despite being an outsider due to his different social background, Tupac often described his years in Baltimore as the happiest of his life. He considered himself lucky compared to the other youths in his neighborhood and valued the importance of education. However, in 1988, his mother moved to the West Coast in search of employment and settled in Marin City, California, near San Francisco. This relocation once again uprooted Tupac, who was in search of a father figure. Looking back, Tupac referred to this move and his resulting departure from school as where he got off track. In the tough Oakland ghettos, Tupac found inspiration in the successful pimps and drug dealers in his neighborhood, even trying his hand at drug dealing. However, his path took a different turn when he crossed paths with people in the music industry. They helped him secure a role as a roadie, dancer, and eventually a rapper with the group Digital Underground. He made a mark with his appearance on Digital Underground's track Same Song, and earned his first solo record deal with Interscope Records. In 1991, Tupac Shakur released his debut and famously political album, Tupacalypse Now. 2 years later, he followed up with Strictly for My Niggas. Alongside his music career, Tupac also acted, making appearances in films like Poetic Justice, where he starred alongside Janet Jackson. During this period, Tupac Shakur became involved in a series of violent fights that resulted in numerous lawsuits. On the flip side, he was socially committed and established a helpline for children and young people in need. In 1994, Tupac was shot during a meeting with Christopher Wallace, widely known as the Notorious B.I.G., and Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, at Quad Recording Studios in New York's Times Square, where they were recording a new track. Tupac was hit by 5 bullets, one of which struck him in the head. Miraculously, he survived the attack and accused Puff and Biggie of the assault, sparking the infamous East Coast versus West Coast feud. In 1995, Shakur was convicted of sexual harassment. Tupac Shakur's personal life, particularly his relationships, was often surrounded by controversies. His connections with various women, including high-profile celebrities, have been topics of public discussion. He had a relationship with Madonna from 1993 to 1995, and reportedly ended it because of racial dynamics through a prison letter. It is rumored she was the first person to have his back while in jail, and was even allowed to have a private shower with Tupac while he served time. Actress Jada Pinkett Smith has also been vocal about the close bond she shared with Tupac Shakur. She has referred to Shakur as one of her soulmates and revealed that despite their relationship being described as strictly platonic, the rapper once made a marriage proposal to her. The relationship involving Faith Evans, the wife of the Notorious B.I.G., and Tupac has also been the subject of speculation and controversy. There have been claims and discussions suggesting an intimate encounter between Tupac and Faith Evans while she was still married to Biggie. Desiree Smith, an ex-girlfriend, claimed that Tupac had relations with Faith Evans and claimed that Tupac had planned the encounter deliberately. While he was serving time in prison, his album Me Against the World reached the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. However, he served only 11.5 months of his originally scheduled 4.5 years in prison because he was bailed out by Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, for $1.4 million. While in prison, Tupac, who went by the alias Machiavelli in reference to the renowned 15th century Florentine political theorist Niccolò Machiavelli, penned the screenplay Live to Tell, which was about the story of a drug kingpin's redemption. On September 1st, 1996, Tupac Shakur attended the Bruce Seldon vs. Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, alongside Marion Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. As they left the event, one of Knight's associates, Trevon Lane, who was affiliated with the MOB Purist gang in Compton, California, noticed Orlando Anderson, also known as Baby Lane, a member of the rival South Side Compton Crips gang, in the MGM Grand lobby. Earlier that year, in July 1996, Anderson and a group of South Side Crips had attempted to rob Lane at a Foot Locker store in Lakewood, California. Lane informed Tupac about Anderson's presence, and Tupac confronted Anderson in the lobby. Shakur asked Anderson if he was associated with the South and then punched him in the face, causing Anderson to fall to the ground. Knight then also joined in the assault on Anderson. The altercation, captured on the MGM Grand's video surveillance, was eventually broken up by hotel security. After the brawl, Tupac returned to his hotel, the Luxor, Las Vegas. He confided in his girlfriend, Keefe Jones, about his involvement in the fight, as he had initially promised to come back to her after entering the MGM Grand and had her wait in the car. Shakur then left with Knight in a BMW sedan, changed clothes, and headed to Club 662, which was owned by Knight, to perform at a charity concert. At around 11 p.m., Tupac and Knight were stopped on Las Vegas Boulevard by officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Bike Patrol. The reason for the stop was playing the car stereo too loudly and not having license plates, which were later found in the trunk of Knight's car. The officers released them a few minutes later without issuing any citations. At 11:10 p.m., while they were stopped at a red light at the intersection of East Flamingo Road and Covell Lane, in front of the Maxim Hotel, a vehicle with 2 women inside pulled up on their left side. Tupac, who was talking through the window of his brand new 1996 BMW 750iL, exchanged words with the 2 women and invited them to go to the club. At 11:15 p.m., a white 4-door late-model Cadillac pulled up to the right side of the BMW. The shooter, sitting in the back of the Cadillac, rolled down the window and fired gunshots from a .40 Smith & Wesson Glock 22 at Tupac's BMW. Tupac was struck 4 times, with 2 bullets hitting his chest, 1 in the arm and 1 in the thigh. One of the bullets entered Tupac's right lung. Knight was also injured in the head by fragmentation from the gunfire. Following the shooting, Tupac's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, recounted that Tupac had asked him to drive Keefe Jones's car instead of riding with him and Knight in case they needed extra vehicles from the club back to their hotel. Shortly after the attack, one of the convoy's cars tried to follow the assailant, but they failed. Yaki Gaddafi was in the car behind Tupac with bodyguards when the shooting occurred. He and members of the death row entourage refused to cooperate with the police. Despite Knight's injuries and the vehicle having a flat tire, he managed to drive Tupac and himself about a mile from the scene to Las Vegas Boulevard and Harmon Avenue. They were once again stopped by the bike patrol, who radioed for paramedics. After arriving on the scene, both police and paramedics transported Knight and Tupac to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada. Gobi Rahimi, a music video director associated with Death Row, visited Tupac at the hospital and later got information from a Death Row marketing employee, who claimed that the shooters had contacted the record label and threatened Tupac. Gobi reported this to the Las Vegas police, but they allegedly said they were understaffed and were unable to provide more information. No attackers showed up at the hospital. At the hospital, Tupac was heavily sedated and placed on life support machines. Due to his repeated attempts to get out of bed, he was eventually put into a medically induced coma. During his hospitalization, Tupac regained consciousness when his girlfriend, Kidada Jones, played Don McLean's Vincent on the CD player by his bedside. According to Jones, Tupac moaned, and his eyes were filled with mucus and swollen. She expressed her love for him during their visit. Knight was released from the hospital on September 8th, the day after the shooting, but he did not give a statement until September 11th. He mentioned that he had heard something but hadn't seen anything on the night of the shooting. However, his statement did little to help the investigation. The officers said that at the time of Tupac's hospitalization, they had no major leads and didn't receive significant cooperation from Tupac's circle. Following the shooting, Gobi Rahimi and members of Tupac Shakur's group, the Outlaws, guarded Tupac in the hospital out of fear that the people who shot him might return to finish the job. Rahimi even mentioned the possibility that the Outlaws had brought weapons with them for protection. On the afternoon of Friday, September 13th, 1996, while in the critical care unit, Tupac Shakur couldn't take it anymore and underwent a respiratory failure which resulted in cardiac arrest after the removal of his right lung. It was Tupac's mother, Afeni, who made the painful decision to discontinue medical treatment, and he was pronounced dead at 4:03 p.m. In 2014, a police officer claimed to have witnessed Tupac's final moments and reported that when asked if he saw the person or people who had shot him, Tupac responded with "fuck you" as his last words. However, paramedics and other officers there at the scene did not report hearing Tupac utter those words, nor did Knight or Frank Alexander, who were also there. 1 year after the shooting, Sergeant Kevin Manning, who led the investigation, told an investigative reporter that Tupac Shakur's murder may never be solved. The case had slowed early on, with few new clues coming in and witnesses refusing to cooperate. In 2002, the Los Angeles Times published a two-part investigative report by Chuck Phillips titled "Who Killed Tupac Shakur?" According to Phillips' year-long investigation, the shooting of Tupac Shakur was carried out by a Compton gang known as the South Side Crips. This was said to be in retaliation for an earlier beating of one of its members by Tupac just hours before the shooting. Orlando Anderson, the Crip whom Tupac had attacked, was believed to have fired the fatal shots. However, Las Vegas police only briefly interviewed Anderson, and he was later killed in an unrelated gang-related shooting nearly 2 years later.
He was like I was like a big fan of his. To me, he was like, when you say Tupac, he was like, the Marvin Gaye rap to me.
Phillips' article also raised questions about the involvement of East Coast rappers, including the notorious B.I.G., who was Tupac's rival at the time, as well as several New York City criminals. The second article in Phillips' series analyzed the murder investigation and claimed that Las Vegas police had mishandled the case. It listed several missteps made by the Las Vegas police, including 1. Dismissing the fight that occurred just hours before the shooting, where Tupac had been involved in a physical fight with Anderson in the MGM Grand Lobby. 2. Failing to follow up with a member of Tupac's entourage who had witnessed the shooting and claimed that he could identify one or more of the assailants. However, this witness was murdered before being interviewed by the police. In 2017, Knight, who was present during the shooting, said that he might have been the actual target of the attack on Tupac. He argued that the shooting was intended to murder him to gain control of Death Row Records, the record label Knight was associated with. Compton investigators collected mugshots of several gang members, including Orlando Anderson, and hand-delivered them to Las Vegas. According to Sergeant Kevin Manning, detectives tried to set a meeting with Gaddafi to show him these pictures, but the calls were never returned. It was later revealed Gaddafi was shot and killed in a housing project in Irvington, New Jersey, 2 months after Tupac's shooting. The investigation into the shooting of Tupac Shakur had several inconsistencies regarding the identification of possible suspects. Despite having witnessed the shooting and having seen the men in the car from which the shots were fired, it appears that there were contradictions in the statements provided by witnesses. In an interview with Frank Alexander, conducted by Las Vegas police on March 19, 1997, he was shown a series of 8 photo lineups, but was unable to identify any suspects from them. On the other hand, EDI Mean claimed to have seen all 4 men in the vehicle, while Alexander reported seeing the face of the suspect who had shot Tupac. Las Vegas police disputed the accounts provided by Alexander and Mean regarding what they had reported to officers on the night of the shooting. In the 2018 USA Network documentary Unsolved, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a Crips gang leader in California and the uncle of Orlando Anderson, claimed to have been in the car when the shots were fired that killed Tupac Shakur. He specifically said that he was in the front seat, but did not disclose the identity of the shooter, saying he was loyal to the street code. Keefe D did provide some details about the people in the car. He said that the car was driven by Terrence Brown and that Orlando Anderson and DeAndre Smith were sitting in the back seat. All of these people were affiliated with the South Side Crips and have since passed away. Keefe D also said that the shooter was in the back seat. In 2016, Mob James, a former death row bodyguard and member of the MOB Peru gang, claimed that he saw Anderson and other South Side Crips pull up in a white Cadillac near Club 662 and briefly park in the lot before the shooting involving Knight and Tupac.
We already knew it was finna happen, that they was coming to Vegas, the whole nine. And then when they came, they pulled up in front of 662. I alerted a bunch of them and told them that Keefe D and them out here, the South Sides is out here. And they drove off.
According to reports from Radar Online, Keefe D said that after waiting near Club 662, they went to a liquor barn store and then made their way to the Carriage House Hotel. While they were on their way, they noticed the death row caravan. Following the murder of rapper Christopher Wallace, widely known as the Notorious B.I.G., 6 months after Tupac Shakur's killing, there was speculation that the two murders were somehow connected. Initial reports did not find solid evidence linking the two murders, but in Chuck Phillips' 2002 report, allegations were made that Biggie had promised the South Side Crips a sum of $1 million to murder Tupac and had supplied the gun used in the shooting. According to Phillips, the South Side Crips began planning the murder after seeing Orlando Anderson's injuries. As they already had connections to Biggie and were aware of his rivalry with Tupac, they approached him to encourage him. Phillips also claimed that Biggie supplied the weapon because he wanted the satisfaction of knowing that the fatal bullet came from his gun. Biggie, however, firmly denied any involvement in Tupac's murder. His family produced computerized invoices which showed that Biggie was in a New York City recording studio on the night Tupac was shot. On July 18, 2023, the Las Vegas Police Department executed a search warrant in connection with Tupac Shakur's murder. The search took place at a residence in Henderson, Nevada. The home belonged to the wife of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. On the morning of September 29, 2023, the Associated Press reported that Las Vegas police had arrested Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in connection with Tupac Shakur's murder.
All right, you ready?
Yep, go for it.
Hey, Keith, Metro Police, come over here. Hey, Metro Police, come over here, all right? Thanks, buddy. Come on over here. Appreciate your cooperation, okay? I'm gonna stand right here in front of the car. Yep, yep, we're going to put it down. I know, hang on. Put that down for a second, all right?
You got another on you, right?
Hooks.
During a grand jury hearing, an affiliate of the South Side Compton Crips gang testified that it was DeAndre Smith who was the shooter, not Orlando Anderson. He said that when Keefe D passed the firearm to Orlando, Orlando did not have a clear shot. DeAndre Smith, also known as Big Dre, was described as a big man, standing at 6 feet and 6 inches and weighing 370 to 400 pounds, which made it physically challenging for Orlando Anderson to reach over him and shoot without risking harm from shell casings. A few hours after the arrest of Keefe D, a grand jury indictment was unsealed in Clark County District Court, charging him with murder in connection to Tupac Shakur's killing. Davis is currently held in jail without bond and declined a request from the Associated Press for an interview. The grand jurors voted to add sentencing enhancements for the use of a deadly weapon and gang activity. If Davis is convicted, these enhancements could cost him a much longer sentence. In Nevada, a person can be convicted of murder for assisting another person in committing the crime, which means that Keefe D may face severe consequences if found guilty. Tupac's father, however, believes Keefe D has nothing to do with the murder of his son and believes the government was behind the killing of Tupac. The murder of Tupac remains a complex and unsolved mystery, with various accounts and investigations shedding new light on the case. As we close today's case, we are left with unanswered questions. Are we any closer to discovering the truth? Who really pulled the trigger that fateful night in Las Vegas? What do you think should be the next step in solving this decades-old mystery? Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below.